within your book, you talk about the 8 pillars of rest. And within each pillar, there's almost a kind of a spectrum. So at one end, you might have movement, and one end, you might have stillness. And it's a really practical tool for people to look at and think, and actually help them to think in the moment, what is it that I might need right now? Because often when we're at our most need of rest, it's very difficult to identify what's going to make us feel better, what's going to bring that balance, if as you described it earlier. So and also it just completely broadens the understanding of what could bring us that balance in the first place. So could you give us a bit of a summary of those pillars, and maybe talk a bit about how teachers might be able to kind of use those in their daily lives?
I'd absolutely love to. Now, for anyone that's Googled rest, you're likely to come up with a bunch of categories like physical rest, mental rest, spiritual rest, emotional rest, creative rest, that kind of thing. And there's a place for that. But my issue with that typology is that it doesn't really help you pinpoint what you need. You know, is physical rest, is that exercise, or is it lying down? Is mental rest, you know, checking out, or is it actually doing something that, you know, is engaging? It doesn't direct us. So that's why I wanted to create the 8 pillars of rest, so that it was more prescriptive, so that you could take a look at that one diagram and go, okay, there's a little roadmap for me. So now this is available for a free download on my website. So for anyone that doesn't have Rest to Reset, you can access this framework via that link. But let's go through it. So we have 8 different pillars. And what I want to highlight here is that there is a continuum, but I'm not saying that one end of the continuum is better than the other. So for example, with the first one, we're looking at, do we need movement or do we need stillness? One is not better than the other. It's just thinking about, how would you use movement or how would you use stillness to bring you back to balance? And that depends on how you've used your body during the day. You know, whether you've been sedentary, but have you been sitting down or have you been standing, right? So there is nuance here. And it's not like, if you've sat for 4 hours, you then need to move for 4 hours. It's not like that. I want people to use this as a roadmap for determining how they can bring themselves back to a sense of peace and harmony. So that first pillar, really simple. Do we need movement? What kind of movement? Or do we need stillness to bring us back to balance? And then the second pillar, we're looking at stimulation. What kind of stimulation have we had in our day? Do we need maybe stimulation of our choosing, rather than the stimulation that we've had? Or actually, do we need a rest for our senses, a break from stimulation? Yeah, and I think teachers are, oh my goodness, you're switched on all day, every day. So I'd be looking at how we can rest our senses, or more of a sense of self-expression, yeah, in what we're imbibing through our senses. The third pillar is looking at energy. And I think quite often we associate rest with just relaxing. But for anyone that's had a really full-on day, they might, you know, go and do legs up the wall and then be faced with a cacophony of thoughts and this sort of jingly, jangly energy. Actually, what they need is a dissipation of energy first. So this is where maybe a little bit of gentle exertion can be the gateway to relaxation. So do we need something that's energizing and uplifting? Or actually, have we got a little bit too much energy? And do we need a soothing dissipation, something calming? The next pillar looks at how we've interacted with people. Do we fancy being in the company of others, or would we rather have a little solitude? And I think this is interesting here because obviously teachers, you are nurturing and you're in the thick of it all day, right? We can still connect with others. It doesn't necessarily have to be solitude, but maybe how we connect might be different. You might, after you've checked in, after you've reconnected and reunited and heard about each other's day, maybe what we fancy is just sitting next to each other on the sofa, holding hands, and that feels resonant. Yeah, there's no right or wrong. It's just what you need in the moment. Then we move on to focus. Now this is, do we need something mindful? Yeah, do we want to focus the mind, or would we prefer a bit of a brain fade, or maybe an opportunity for daydreaming, you know, a wandering mind? Yeah, this is the mental aspect to rest. And again, that might fly in the face of what we associate. it doesn't have to be the checkout. You know, if we've been engaged in really repetitive tasks, if there's been a lot of monotony, actually maybe focusing the mind on something like a Wordle might feel resonant. Yeah, it's kind of thinking about things differently. The next pillar is looking at emotional expression. This is important. You know, I think there's a time and a place for being with our emotions. And when you think about the kind of masking that we have to do in our caregiving roles, in our downtime, our emotions need to go somewhere. So I would be suggesting some gentle, expressive practices, yeah, to move through our emotions. But equally, it's also okay to take a break from our emotions. I think that's really important for people to know that, you know, you don't want to be at the ransom of your feelings. It's okay to say, I'm going to carve time and space to be with you. But actually, once that time has elapsed, it's okay to say, that's it. I'm now going to bring my attention elsewhere, as long as that is on something nurturing and life-giving. And then we've got two more pillars. We've got, do we fancy something really comfortable and easy? Or actually, do we fancy a little bit of a gently stretchy challenge? Yeah. And the last one, now this one is really pertinent to teachers. There's a balance. We need a balance between giving and a balance between receiving. Yeah. So this might be, do you know what? You've spent all day making the decisions for everybody else, guiding everyone else. It might be really nice in our downtime for someone else to take the lead on that. Yeah. Have an absence of decision making, or to extend that nurturing inwards rather than taking care of everyone else all the time. That's okay. That's necessary. We need that to bring us back to balance.